Assemblyman Steve McLaughlin.
Thank you, and Dr. Freed, thank you, and Mary Frances and Rich, thanks for your testimony, and for County Executive Jimino and Deputy County Executive Meyer, thank you for being here as well and your diligence in this situation from the beginning. I just have a couple of questions for you, Mary Fran, and for Rich, and one you're kind of slightly involved in, but the water up in Petersburg, the distribution of that, what are the residents getting per day? Is it 1 gallon or 5? I've kind of heard both. Do you know? I know it's not what you're handling, but do you have any idea?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's being handled by the town. I believe now Taconic has taken that over. So.
Okay.
Sir, could you state your name for the record?
Richard Elder.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't know if you'd know that one or not. I was just curious because I've heard both numbers. Whereas the folks in Hoosick Falls we know are getting 5 gallons a day. Who made the decision? I know that there was, based on your testimony, Mary Fran, there was a emergency meeting on the 20th of February, Saturday morning, County Health, County Executive, DOH, and the town, and then it was decided that there's going to be a water advisory put out. So that was probably done in conjunction with everybody, right? Mm-hmm. No pushback from DOH on that, obviously, because it got issued. So it's just interesting to me that, we had such a problem getting that done in Hoosick Falls, and then in Petersburg there was not the same pushback from the DOH. Do you know why that was? Was it because what they had learned in Hoosick Falls, do you think?
You would hope that they learned from that, the progress that came from Hoosick Falls spilled into Petersburg.
Right.
And so, we knew that we needed to be more collaborative and more transparent and more communication. So I really feel that, we learned in Hoosick Falls, and the state did not push back meeting with us.
So at that point, what was the level? Was it still 400? I think it was, right, in February?
100.
100 in February. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Dr. Freed, thank you for your testimony. And, listening to what you're talking about, the culture there at DOH, it just seems like they suffer from institutional arrogance or institutional elitism, where they have to have it proven to them in the face of all kinds of scientific studies and all kinds of data that if it doesn't meet their standards, that they reject it. Does that sound like an accurate description of what goes on over there?
Yes. Yes, that is it.
So,
and it's one of the reasons that I would suggest an independent panel of experts to advise the Commissioner of Health on an ongoing basis about CEH's regulations and restrictions.
I understand your recommendation. I don't necessarily disagree, but I would just say he's the Commissioner of Health. He's supposed to set the standard for his department. And to ignore years of scientific study and then say that they're not, and then say that, well, we're just following EPA guidelines, is maddening to everybody behind you and in front of you. And I know it's not your fault. You're not there anymore. I'm just saying that it is absurd to say that you have this 50,000 part per trillion limit, and the EPA didn't prove to us beyond a shadow of a doubt that we had to lower it. Therefore, we're not going to lower it. Then we're going to blame the EPA for lowering it. Do you not understand how the people of Hoosick Falls would just go crazy after hearing that? It's absurd, right? On its face. It makes no sense at all. And then to turn around and blame the EPA over and over and over again, exceptionally frustrating to hear. Do you think, given the culture that you worked in for a long time, I understand it is difficult to change a culture. God knows I try it around here all the time, but it's difficult to change a culture. It is. In your opinion, if Hoosick Falls wells were coming in at 49,000 parts per trillion, do you think the DOH would have issued any advisory, or was the 50,000 the line that would have absolutely had to have been crossed for them to even mention it? Because it's hard to see at what level they would have ever taken action if 400 didn't get it done. Do you think they would have said nothing at 49,000?
Yes, I think they would have said nothing at 49,000.
Do you know of any other...
I don't know, of course. I mean,
no,
we're guessing.
Right, but I mean, maybe it's logical because they didn't want to say anything at 400. They weren't coming forward. They were pushing back from all we've seen.
Well, it's a binary decision. They either tell the people or they don't. And, they've got a line. Over it they tell the people, and under it they don't.
True, but that's true. I agree with you. However, the commissioner sat there and said there was no bright line. There was no bright line for him of 400.
I think in a sense, though, to be fair, I think that's right. Any of these numbers are guesswork, educated guesswork, but guesswork. So the difference between, 300 and 500, we don't know what either of them do in the future, and we know there's no straight cutoff, but you have to do something or not do it.
Well,
they use 50,000.
They use 50,000, but I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you had said the 50,000 was sort of when we don't know much about a chemical or a compound or a contaminant.
That's right.
That's accurate to say?
Yes.
But, and Assemblyman Gottfried hit on this very well, but what about when we do know? And in this case, we did know for a really long time. Is there an ethical, moral, legal obligation on behalf of the DOH to then act and lower it from 50,000? Or can they just sit on their hands and say, didn't meet our standards, so we're going to leave it at 50,000? I mean, the C8 study is pretty clear that there are probable links between numerous cancers. But yet, nothing. The DOH acts like that doesn't even exist.
Or the argument is apparently not strong enough to convince them.
Correct.
And they are correct. I mean, there's no precision. Every study in science, 100% have scientific limitations.
Correct.
It's just a matter of which limitations and how big they are. So, that's correct. And it is also essentially impossible to do a study to find out if PFOA causes cancer in humans, because the only way to do it would be to do a study. To give half the citizens PFOA and don't give it to the other half. Watch them for 30 years and prevent them from having any other interactions, that might be confounding factors.
Right.
So we'll never know. We don't know, and we will never know.
Well,
and even if we knew for one, what about PFOA plus this one?
Right.
What about PFOA plus those three over there? We're stuck in a situation where we don't know, and we are not going to know.
Except for we gave everybody in Hoosick Falls PFOA for decades. So I think there's some pretty good data to be gleaned there. And there was already a study done in West Virginia and Ohio, correct?
Yes.
So we do have some pretty decent studies. I mean, if that's the excuse that DOH is always going to use, then it's just you're never going to get any movement from them ever. Is there any acknowledgement?
I believe that is what has happened.
Yeah, I agree. Is there any acknowledgement from, that 50,000 encompasses a lot of things, right? I mean, a lot of contaminants, a lot of chemicals, but there's no real acknowledgement between the level of toxicity or whatever the right word is for these chemicals. In other words, PFOA and PFOS, a whole different animal than some of the other contaminants listed, right? But they never seem to acknowledge that. They just sort of lump them in at the 50,000. Is that true?
I think that that's true, but I wasn't there.
Okay.
For the bulk of my testimony, I know that that's right because I was there, I was in the room.
Mm-hmm.
But particularly from the time that the PFOA story hit the media, particularly from then till now, I really know nothing about it, just what I read in the paper. And so I'm not sure, trying to get too pinned down of what they said, or I just don't know.
And is it your opinion, it may have been you, I think there's a few different folks have reviewed the current advisories or fact sheets that DOH is putting out for the folks in Hoosick Falls and Petersburg, and do you think they're still downplaying this in their words? It seems like they are to me, but...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is, in my judgment, what they always do.
All right, Doctor, thank you very much. I really appreciate your testimony. I was looking forward to hearing what you had to say, so thank you. Appreciate it.